Southwestern Family of Companies welcomes you to the Action Catalyst. Each week, our diversely and amazingly accomplished guests share their insights and inspirations to help us ignite our own. So let's invest attention together to breathe, to reflect and refocus, and decisively defeat that voice we call Mr. Mediocrity. Then let's enjoy moving forward to make a positive difference in our world. Privileged to be your host, this is Dan Moore.
Welcome to the Action Catalyst podcast. This is Dustin Hillis, CEO of Southwestern Family of Companies. And today we have a special guest. We have a good friend, Will Bartholomew. And Will is the founder and CEO of D1 Sports Training. And Will and I go way back. He was actually my very first consulting client. And we worked together in a coaching capacity, helping do some different business endeavors to build some strategy on the sales side of D1, and then have just maintained our friendship ever since. And he's one of my favorite people. He's an entrepreneur. His background goes all the way back here in Nashville. He was a three-sport athlete, went on to University of Tennessee, became a national champion, go Vols, there at Tennessee, went on to play pro football, then started D1 and has been wildly successful as an entrepreneur and business CEO. They were rated as one of the top 30 gyms with D1, and excited to have you here on the podcast, Will. Welcome.
Thanks, Dustin. Appreciate, first of all, great to see your face. Love all the success you've had, man, and just really appreciate you having me on and making me a part of this amazing book that you got coming out. I can't wait to read it, the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, thanks for.
I get my blurb. That's it. I want to see the whole thing.
Well, I'll get you a copy of it. We have the galleys out right now, and comes out on September 29th, Redefining Possible. And yeah, we appreciate you're featured in chapter number 4 on building belief systems. And before we hop into that, I'd love for the audience to get a little bit more about you and your background and your story, Will, and then we'll dive into Redefining Possible and talking about belief systems. Tell us just a little bit of your story. How did you get to where you are today? And we'd love to hear that story.
Love it. Yeah, I'll give you the Cliff Note version, the flyover. So grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, was, like you mentioned, an athlete, had a real passion for sports. And, it was one of those things I knew early on, this is what I wanted to do and wanted to be. I didn't know all the twists and turns that would get me to where I am today, but was fortunate enough to be all-state in 3 sports at Montgomery Bell Academy. I was football, wrestling, and track. I was a thrower in track. I didn't run. And then went on to the University of Tennessee, played a little football there, was the fullback on the 98 national championship team, as you mentioned, got to be captain of the team, and then had a sip of coffee in the pros. I got my NFLPA number, and I got to be in training camp, but I blew my knee out in training camp, which I thought at the time was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. And it felt like that for about 6 months. And then through that difficulty was birthed this business called D1. I wrote a business plan while I was laid up about a place to train athletes just like I had trained at the University of Tennessee, where you could have expert coaches, you could have someone coach you through nutrition, motivating environment, the loud music, all the great things that I loved. And that's what I set out to create. So opened my first location with just some grit and rawness and terrible business practices. Terrible. I'm embarrassed. And then opened my second location and third location. And my second location failed miserably. My third location did really well. And I believe that's about the time you got involved. It might have been on the 4th or 5th. And just knew I needed it.
It was the third. I remember
right
you had
third,
3. Yeah.
And it was right about that time. I kind of, I think I took a mental shift to going, I'm no longer a football player running a business. I'm a businessman, and football was just part of my past. And that's a real identity crisis, I think, for just any athlete, just to be honest with you. And so, because you've done so much of it in your life. Anyway, so I made this pivot and start scaling the business. And one of the things I knew, I did know this. I knew that I didn't know everything. I'm very coachable. And one of the things I pride myself in is surrounding myself with really smart people that have done it and done it better than me, and taking some of their business practices and applying them to my business and being able to scale. And so anytime you hit a plateau in the business, I would always kind of level up that way, if you will. I would try to get my skill set around some amazing people to up my skill set. And you were one of those guys. And so I really appreciate everything you do with us. Even though I didn't realize how much we paid you. I went back and pulled the invoices. Man, you're expensive. But no, I just joke.
We actually gave you one of the best rates that we've ever given anybody. Come on.
I love it. Never mind. I was a great negotiator. We had a great run. I scaled the business from 2001 when it was formed to 2015 to 32 corporate locations. We owned almost all the real estate. And in 2015, we sold a chunk of the real estate to a couple different REITs. And the main reason for that is we pivoted because we had a physical therapy business that had really exploded and was doing really well, that we had launched in 2012. So fast forward, that happened in 2015. In 2017, we were sitting there with two very large businesses, one a lot bigger than the other, but the therapy business was the larger business and the gym business was the smaller business. And I had a great mentor look at me and say, which one is your passion? And I said, the gym business, the gym business, the gym business. And even though he goes, hey, this is where your bread's buttered, is the therapy business. And I said, this is my passion. And so made that strategic decision to sell that business in 2017 and pour gasoline on the gym business. We repackaged the gym business as a true franchise business. Which franchising in and of itself is a whole different beast and model that I had to learn in 2017. We relaunched it in 2018, and God has just really blessed, even through COVID, which is crazy. So 2018 to fast forward to today, we have 162 franchises awarded. We have 43 of those open, and we have 26 opening the rest of this year. So busy time at D1, fun scaling the business, and it's exciting, man. We got some amazing things, a lot of wind at our back.
Wow, man, that's incredible. Man, just to think from when I met you, 3 locations. Would you say 43?
We have 43 open now. Yeah.
Wow, man, that's just so awesome. And I think what you said about being coachable is one of the keys. As a leader, sometimes being coachable can be one of the hardest things, and to admit that you need the help and that you're willing to do that. I think it's a key to success to any business and any leader. And it was just so fun working personally with you, and you are coachable, and you go down in the history books as one of my favorite, most coachable people that I've ever personally worked with. And also your beliefs are also something. It's the reason that I was so excited when you said that you would be willing to be part of the Redefining Possible book. And I immediately knew that you're a man of strong beliefs, and that your beliefs don't waver. You're a man of conviction. Tell us a little bit about that, and why belief has been a cornerstone of what you do your whole life, and how that's helped you throughout where you're at now, and how that ties into Redefining Possible for you.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. I'll try to break it down like somewhat systematically in my brain. It all starts with my mom and my dad. My dad was a West Point man, served our country over in Vietnam, and he was just a man of, if you set your mind to it, you could accomplish anything you wanted. And that's the way he lived his life, built a big business himself. And then my mom was an ordained minister, is an ordained minister. And she drove the Bible into us. And so anytime you're reading a ton of scripture about faith and belief, it starts birthing these seeds inside of you. And I learned very early on that if you set your mind to it, that you could accomplish it. And I learned that in an early stage. And then it's funny as you grow up, because you start having some successes and you start leaning just on your own knowledge. One of the things that I found, I found a lot of strength in, is when other people would believe in me. And so when I'll just use our story together. So when we brought you in, I was at this pivotal stage, starting to scale the business, needed some infrastructure and some systems. And I got so much out of you because you had so much belief in your sales system, so much belief in what you could provide and the value that you could provide with us. I'll never forget that first presentation. And you did give me the sticker at the end. And I was like, man, you were so convicted in what you could deliver. That belief spilled over onto us. And so I truly believe that beliefs shape who you are. I still do it today. And I'm hoping my kids gather some of that and are living that as well.
Yeah, I'm really glad that your buddy in the middle of one of our trainings, who was the motivational speaker after me, didn't kill me with his Bowie knife that one day when he told a story of something about doing a speech with a bunch of athletes and killing a crocodile, and he pulled out his Bowie knife, and the next thing I know, my life was in danger. And so that was crazy. Still today, that's one of the craziest.
If you'll remember, you were talking about conviction. You were talking about conviction and belief. And he jumped up in with remember he was a strength coach. For those of you who are listening, just imagine a Cajun strength coach with a cutoff shirt, sleeves gone, he's all sweating with the bandana on and jumping up, and he put a knife to your throat and slammed you against the wall, didn't he?
Well, I was gonna edit that part out, but yeah, he did.
And I'm sitting there in my back of my mind, I'm going, this is a PR nightmare. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hey, and you didn't sweat a bullet though. I give you, you were like, hey, I have conviction. It was awesome.
Yeah. I was ready to go. I was all right, here we go. If I'm going to go down, I would love to go down in the middle of a training. That would be just the way to go.
That's great. That's awesome.
Oh, that's so fun. Well, let's dive into some of your background and how belief probably has been like building blocks throughout your life. Because, that's really confidence anchors. There's a whole chapter about confidence anchors in the book, and that one success leads to the next success, and build your belief, build your confidence. And there's a story in the book about wrestling that really, for me, was a pivot point. It was a confidence anchor where I wasn't the best athlete. I wasn't the most naturally gifted, talented athlete really ever. But I had this wrestling match that made a huge difference in my life. And I know you were a amazing wrestler. Tell us a little bit about your background before playing college and football and being a pro football player. What's your best wrestling story that impacted you and helped you for the rest of your life and impacted Redefining Possible for you?
Yeah. I laugh. Y'all will find this funny. I tried to quit wrestling. It was so hard. It was like, I have a 15-year-old son right now as we're talking, and he tried to quit wrestling, and I'm making him do it. Anyway, I think wrestling, from a mindset standpoint, from a mental toughness standpoint, was more beneficial to my life than football. I really mean that. More beneficial to my life than football. And I played football a lot longer. What wrestling did for me was I had a little bit of success my junior year. And my dad met with my wrestling coach and Next thing I know, fast forward to the summer, I'm on a plane to Iowa to go to Dan Gable's intensive wrestling camp.
Wait a minute. You went to Dan Gable's 2-week intensive training camp?
Oh, yeah.
I went to Dan Gable's 2-week intensive training camp.
See, it impacted you too.
The hardest thing I've ever done in my life was the Dan Gable 2-week intensive training camp.
So,
Sorry, you're probably about to say the same thing, but I have literally
you know what happened there. You knows what happens there. But basically, that they test your will, and a lot of people quit. And then when you come out of there, I came back with a mindset of, and probably like you did, like I can never be beaten. Like, you will never beat me. I've worked harder than you. And he embodied that, and he carried that with all of his wrestlers, and the camp was amazing. Anyway.
How many people quit? The year that I was there, a lot of people quit. What would you say?
I don't remember. I don't recall. I mean, it was a long time ago, but I do remember a ton of people quit. And I remember being locked in a sauna and having to get out. And we had we were locked in the sauna, and like we were in there for like 10 minutes, and like if it was like 110 degrees and it was terrible. And if one of our teammates laughed, or if they said anything, we got locked in for another 10 minutes. And one of our teammates cracked a joke with like not at 9 minutes. And of course we all laughed. We got locked in. Anyway, can't do that stuff anymore in these days. But
that's right.
so fast forward, I'm wrestling in the state championship. I was wrestling a guy who I hadn't wrestled before. He was 58-0, never lost. And I'm a football player. I had committed to the University of Tennessee. I had decided to come out for wrestling late because I was doing my recruiting trips. So they do the big announcements like right before, right? Spotlight on the mat, 10,000 people, and they're doing the announcements before, and they're saying all his stats, 58-0, all these tournaments that he won, blah, 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 blah. And for me, I had a belief, and I knew that I was going to go in there and win. And so my wrestling coaches and I came with this little plan. So while they're doing the announcements, they say, and Will Bartholomew, he's only wrestled 21 matches with 0 defeats this year. And he's also the winner of the Cheekwood Arts Festival. And he also placed 3rd in the debate contest. And he also was runner-up president of the school. Anyway, so I made fun of myself, a little self-deprecation coming out there, because I wanted that mental advantage of him going in there and know that, hey, I don't care. I basically was poking fun at him a little bit. And I had this belief going into it that I knew I was going to win. I had studied, I had prepared for that moment for months, because I knew I was going to meet him. And when I met him, I knew it was like, as soon as we walked on the mat, I knew it was over.
Oh, that's amazing. How did you win?
Got points.
Yeah.
It was a close match. Don't get me wrong. He was awesome. He was a much better wrestler than me.
A win is a win. That's amazing.
I played my strengths.
Yeah. Oh, well, that is such a great story, and I can believe you went to the Dan Gable intensive training camp. And what year was that you went, did you say?
I went in 1995.
I was there in 96. Oh my gosh, I missed you by a year. Wouldn't that be incredible if we actually wrestled each other? I didn't know.
What weight did you wrestle though? I was a 215 pounder. I wrestled heavyweight.
I was 189.
We could have.
We could have.
That would have been hilarious.
I was a freshman, so I was wrestling national champions as a freshman, and it was awful.
I bet. Yeah, it's terrible. Freshman year is the worst year of wrestling, unless you're like smaller. If you're smaller, but 189 is terrible.
189 freshman was just brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Well, tell me a little bit. Okay, so now let's transition to belief building moments at Tennessee. So you get a scholarship, you go play football, University of Tennessee, and you played with some just Hall of Famers, Peyton Manning, Al Wilson. I mean, the list of your friends that you got to play with is just so cool, really. What was one of the hardest moments for you guys where you had to break through and redefine possible as a team to win that championship in 1998?
Yeah, there were a couple pivotal moments. I mean, one in particular that if there's some people that might remember 1998, it was actually in the fall of 97. We played Arkansas. Arkansas was great, right? Great team. And we had a pastor do chaplain before, and he preached on belief, and you never give up hope, and you believe all the way to the moment. And I can't remember the scripture. Should be better prepared. The pastor's name was Rice Brooks, and he gave everybody a little scripture. And we go out there, games kind of back and forth. They get the ball and all they got to do is just run out the clock. Like, game's over, right? We're like out of timeouts. I think we might have one or something like that, but the game's pretty much over. And everybody on that sideline, to a man, believed that we were going to still win the game, that something was going to happen. And I'll never forget, everybody was all like quoting that scripture, and they're like jumping up and down. And Clint Sterner fumbled the ball and gave us the ball back at about the 50-yard line, and we marched down and scored at the last minute. And I'll never forget it, because it was one of those moments. That's kind of the punchline of what happened, but the moment on the sideline of everyone believed we were going to win. Nobody was going, woe is me, or, oh, we lost. We were going to win the national championship. Now we're not. Everybody knew we were going to still win. And just that belief and that mindset really helped carry us through. Because I'll never forget, because they fumbled the ball, and our offense coordinator looks at us and goes, we're running the ball down their throat. We're not even putting it in the air. And we only had like a minute and 30 left. And we ran the ball 50 yards and punched it in for the go-ahead win. So that was a really cool moment in 98.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I think I actually remember watching that game. And you know what's interesting about that is there's so many people that are probably football fans listening to this, and they think, unless you've experienced something like that and actually had the transformation of belief where it actually goes in, it manifests into reality. You think it's something technical. You think, oh, these athletes are just really good, and it's something that's a technical thing that's happening out there. But what's in your mind manifest into reality, and that belief and the way you guys experience that, it's a very real, tangible thing. And that's
right.
What a great
Totally.
story. And if you would have lost, you couldn't have won the national championship, right?
That's right. Yeah, it was a pivotal game. I want to say they were ranked ahead of us. It was maybe like 2 versus 4. And we went on. We were undefeated that year and won it. Yeah, that was a pivotal moment, and just a belief that really came to reality in the moment. Like, whoa, like this is like backs against the wall. Everything's over. I mean, another cool moment, I guess, from college. I'll give you this one. I was in the weight room. I was a weight room guy, hence why I'm in the business that I'm in, and was in there. It was 30 minutes past the team workout or whatever, and everybody was gone, and I'm in there still working and pumping some iron. And I had a senior captain, so I'm a freshman. I had a senior captain come up to me, and he looked me in the eyes and he goes, "Hey, you know what you're going to be?" And I was like, "What?" I'm sitting there thinking, like he's going to make fun of me or something. He's a senior. And he said, "You're going to be a captain of this team." And
wow.
I looked at him and I go, why would you say that? And he said, because if you keep doing what you're doing, he goes, that is going to become reality because everybody sees it already. And for me, that was a moment of going, And it just goes with the power of words and how much influence we all have in other people's lives, like, and how you could speak something prophetic into someone's life. And I never forgot it. I never forgot it. And I look at those moments now, like when I see stuff, I'm like, man, when you think it and you know it's something amazing, you need to speak that over somebody's life, because they'll take that and make it reality. And to your point about, it's not some detailed business plan. It's just, hey, when you can vision that you're actually going to be there, that's when it happens.
Well, having those deep-rooted convictions, listening, and actually saying it, putting it into action. I mean, thank God he actually did that, and it changed. That could change the trajectory of your life forever. And he just, it took him 5 seconds to say that to you. Isn't that amazing?
Yep. It's amazing.
Oh, that is so cool. Well, tell us a little bit about the transition, because it is a very small percentage of people in the world that, number one, get to go play any kind of college athletics, but then it's a much smaller percentage to make even an appearance in the NFL and to get the chance to play in the NFL and to do that. So what was that mentally like for you, having to go from winning the national championship, being the captain of the national championship team, and then you're thrown into a completely different pond with the NFL? And how did you have to redefine possible for yourself through that experience?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that was like a massive transition for me as a human being. I mean, there was a little bit of mental shift of going, hey, it becomes very, it's more business than like team oriented than colleges. But that wasn't a mental shift, because I was like, just do what you've done before to be successful. And that's what I did. Like, I got there, I was the guy late in the weight room, and the coaches would pull me aside and go, hey, you're going to make this team. Keep doing what you're doing. And like, I had all of that stuff lined up, and then God threw me through a little bit of a twist. And so I'm running down the field, and so they had cut the guy behind me. They had cut the guy ahead of me. So, and I'm coming into this going, man, I'm getting first team reps, second team reps, and I'm on 2 special teams. I'm like, I'm gonna play a lot, right? And I'm thinking in my mind, like, just keep doing what you're doing, just keep having a great attitude and working hard. And I'm running down the field. On air, I cut, and my knee tears and my quad tears.
Oh,
and
man, golly.
It was a little bit like, like if I compared it to business, it would be like getting ready to, like, I don't know, sell your business for a ton of money, and the buyer just walks away. You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, and even worse than that, maybe like stealing your company. You know what I mean? It's like, now it's like, what do I do? And that was a big mental shift. It took me, and it did. I mean, it took me a good 6 months plus to like mentally get out of going, why didn't this become reality? And then I think there's a great book called The Obstacle is the Way. And
love that book. We recommend it all the time at Southwestern Coaching to our clients, and it's great. Yeah.
And that's really what I was going through at the time, is that I had this huge obstacle in my way, and taking that and using that as a time to create a business plan, a time to soul search and go, who do I want to become 10 years from now, 15 years from now, those type of things. And so, for me, that moment was so pivotal that it really set my life in a different trajectory, and so I was able to start my business earlier. And don't get me wrong, in my early 20s, it was tough. Like, I put in, I'm still putting in a ton of hours, but you kind of fall in love with it. But at the time it was like, man, like all my other buddies are out playing NFL football, and I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and working till 9 at night, and I'm making like $30,000 a year. Like, this sucks, And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, that was, it was just, once again, one of the things you had to get your mindset of going, what do I want to be and who do I want to become? And then really envisioning that and believing that.
It's interesting. I remember talking with you when we first met. Actually, one of our very first conversations, you shared this story with me, and I shared with you. I got a concussion and was forced to stop playing football. And if it wasn't for that, I would have never come to Southwestern and wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. And I would have never met my wife, and like the whole list of things that you look at where you think it's the worst thing that ever happened to you in your entire life. But when you lean into your core beliefs and you don't give in to the pain, but you let the pain make you stronger, it always takes you to a next level, to a higher calling, if you will. And it actually fortifies your faith and your belief even more. Pain causes change, and hearing you talk about that, what are your thoughts on pain causing change?
Well, I mean, look, we all wish, or we all hope for, that you're able to identify your pain points ahead, right? So you can address them, right? I use that for business. I just got out of quarterly planning for my business, and like, we're trying to identify pain points ahead of time, so that way we can address them, this quarter, so we don't run into a real problem down the road. And the reality is that life sometimes deals you with pain points that you never see coming, and you can't even expect it. And so it's all how you respond to it, i.e. a pandemic.
Love it. Yeah.
And so
that's a perfect transition into my next question. So tell us about that. So here we are, 2020. We're in a pandemic. We're in a global crisis. The economy is in a recession, unemployment, and all that. And oh, by the way, you're in one of the industries that the news would tell us is the most challenging industries, because you're being regulated by the government, saying whether or not people can come work out and all of that. So tell us about how that's affected you, and how you have pivoted, and how this is Redefined Possible for you in D1 sports training.
Yeah. So, man, it's funny how, once again, God kind of lines things up. So one of the pain points we had back, I'm going to go fall of 2019, that we identified was, we have a lot of athletes that go in season and quit paying their dues and their fees, and we're not able to service them. And so an idea was birthed to create a program called D1 to U. D1 to U is coaching accountability via Zoom call that we use. We have a couple of tools. We have a workout app tool, and we have a nutrition app tool. And then we have a script that our coaches follow. So we created this in fall of 2019. We beta tested it over the winter, and then the pandemic hits. So
wait a minute. You had already created this before the pandemic.
Correct.
Can I borrow your crystal ball? That's amazing.
Well, we created it out of a need that was happening with athletes going in season. And so I think it was March 27th, or the week sports stopped, which was like a Friday. They announced all the sports were stopping. I came out on our national, we do like a big live Zoom call with all our owners and partners. And I came out and said, well, this is a great opportunity, because for us, this is the greatest off season this nation, this world has ever seen. So that tagline spun into, okay, how are you going to address it? Fast forward, by that Friday, the following Friday, I think it was March 27th, we launched D1 to U. So within a week, with all the apps, the nutrition, and everything. Now, we looked like geniuses, but we had been working on it. So what we did was, on on the 1st of April, we had all 43 locations mandated to shut down.
Wow.
So the entire business was shut down. And we went to our owners and we said, here's the way you're going to do this. You're going to reach out via email, texting, and you're also going to have your coaches and staff call every single individual member that you have and offer them, they've been coming in large group training. You're going to offer them D1TU if they'll stay on paying, which is in a one-on-one setting for the same price. So all of a sudden they go from large group to one-on-one, which is a higher premium value. You paid a lot more if you paid one-on-one training in the gym. And let's see how many people take. We had a little over 70% take. So only 30% pause system-wide. So, and that was in the month of April. In the month of May, we were able to start opening back up. We were able to start opening back up. In the month of May, this is an interesting stat. So March system revenue of 43 locations. Same locations in May that were opening up. They staggered opened up. Some opened the first week, second week, third week, right? We just took global revenue. We were 17% higher in May than we were in March.
What?
It was crazy. I think.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And we to your point, we really dove into, and I think that's one of the reasons we really won during 08, 9, 10 too, is because we really took some of the stuff that was birthed. I mean, look, not some of it, a lot of the stuff that was birthed with you, which was our sales processes and system, and how to what we call now a prescription sale, which is how do we prescribe you into the right workout program that you need to get you to where you want to go, your goal. And so here's the even more amazing stat. The amazing stat is this. So because of that, we were able to dive into these best business practices. We identified this pain and really leaned in. Most of our locations kind of went double down on marketing, while a lot of gyms, are cutting their budgets and everything. We're like, hey, let's go garden the market. In June, compared to our biggest month of the year. So biggest month of the year, which was February for us this year. So system revenue, 43 locations. 43 locations actually only 41 open in June. So 43 in February, 41 in June. We were up revenue-wise 24% system revenue.
Whoa. And that was in June?
That was in June.
Oh my gosh. So it's just going to keep getting better from there. I mean, that's incredible.
You never know, but I look at it and go, I think, once again, I just came out of a quarterly meeting. The mentality and the mindset of our team right now is amazing. We had 33 documented significant wins this past quarter in the midst of COVID and everything else. We had 7 documented significant losses. That's crazy that our team would think that. And
wow.
Just to your point about belief and mindset and overcoming beliefs. And we do a lot of that. We do a lot of that with our franchisees. We hold all-in owners calls every week, and we discuss, what beliefs are tearing you down. And it's funny that we're talking about this because this is so much of who I am. I mean, I have a journal right here, and every day I have 21 beliefs that I read to myself that I've created for myself. And they're new beliefs. They're new beliefs because I'm always trying to break my old ones.
Wow. Would you mind sharing a few with us? I'd love to hear some
come
of those.
On. These are personal, right? So when I say these, you have to understand the context. So these are beliefs that you might not think of yourself, that you're trying to like uproot and I would call it redo the hardwiring inside of our hearts and inside of our brains. And so one of the things I'm dealing with, I'll just use one for my kids. I have 3 kids, 17, 15, and 11. And one of the things
Beautiful kids, by the way. You have
Thanks,
just
man.
the most, you're like a postcard. Every time I see on social media, you guys taking a photo, I'm like, man, I just need to like, that's
Not
like
me,
a
man.
Hallmark
That's my wife.
card right there.
That's my wife. You know, one of the beliefs I have for my kids, you know, we're going through it, right? We're going through it just like everybody else has. We have teenagers that are trying to figure out who they are and what they're doing in this world. So one of my beliefs right now is that my kids would become the best version of themselves. And so that's a fundamental belief I've had ingrained in me. I use one for I use one for business. And it's funny how these get ingrained in you. So there was a point in my business career where I was getting super frustrated with my team because they weren't executing my vision. And ultimately, as owners and as really all of us, you get what you tolerate, right? So if I tolerate mediocrity, that's what I'm going to get.
Yep.
And so one of the things that I wrote down in my journal, and I read this to my team, I read this to myself every day, and it's funny how these words start coming out of my mouth, is that my team makes it look easy because they are world class. I used to get these comments that my team, man, it's so hard to carry out your vision and do what you want to do. Now I say my team makes it look easy because they're world class. And it's funny because I haven't, like, things that come up now, like this gets regurgitated to me. One of my VPs the other day handled an issue and he's like, man, that was so easy. And I was like, God, like, that's what I want. That's what I want.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I love that. I love having that written down, how specific that is. And it does, you know, those affirmations, they hardwire what you think about becomes your words become your actions become your beliefs, and that's who you are. And man, that is powerful, Will. Hopefully everybody is listening and seeing you hold it up. You got it right there next to you. And they're specific. I love that you change them. They're not stagnant. It's relevant. You know, you have teenage daughters, so you need to create some that's relevant to what's going on with your life right now. And if somebody hasn't re-looked at their core beliefs and their affirmations in a year, it changes in a year. And that is a powerful action-oriented thing that you just shared with us. To wrap us up here, there's a very diverse group of people listening to the podcast, and yeah, they're interested in redefining possible, and they're interested in just business and life in general. And I want you to imagine that the listener is just struggling with imagining how they can redefine possible in their life. And if you were to give a piece of advice for somebody who 2020 has just dealt them a rough go, whether something personal, something in business, and it's just they're really struggling to have a vision for their life and how it's even possible to redefine possible right now. What advice would you give that listener?
First of all, thanks for thinking I'm qualified to give advice. You know, 2 things that have really impacted me recently, and these are just the 2 that popped in my brain, are first one is forgiving yourself. I think, you know, I grew up in the church and I used to envision, you know, I had to get God's forgiveness. And yes, God plays a massive role. He is inside of us. God is all and is in all. So he is definitely inside of us. But I think us as business people, I think we do I think we're really hard on ourselves. We think we should be perfect. And I think you cannot get to where you're wanting to go if you're hard on yourself. You're just adding, it's like throwing rocks in your backpack. Like, why would you do that when you're trying to hike a mountain? And so I would just give yourself permission to forgive yourself. You made bad business decisions, or you've been dealt a bad hand, or you've had a bad dealing. Like, just be like, and the way I do that is I get it on paper, because it usually gets out of me. Like, I write them all out. And just so y'all know, I do this on a weekly basis. I have a dedicated time every week, write down all the crappy things I did and the things that are pissing me off. And I get it all out of me. And it just frees up so much bandwidth. It's like clearing out your hard drive on your computer. And so forgive yourself. So that's number one. And then the second thing, this sounds so simple, but it's really difficult to do, is be able to define where you want to go. So let's just use money, because that's an easy one, right? Like, I want to have whatever, $10 million. And you try to not just envision the cash in your bank, but like what all comes with that, and the feelings and emotions and everything else. And I use my kids. I have my kid becoming the best version of themselves, and envisioning, my son who's wanting to be an actor, getting that acting job, and what those feelings and emotions and the proud moments I'm going to have. And then getting yourself, like when you kind of know what those are, here's the hard part. The hard part is, can you get yourself mentally and physically to actually feel like it actually was manifested and is happening? And for me, like when I get there, that's when everything starts happening. It's so funny. And I know we believe the same thing. So I know it's so funny though, because I can tell you, and I'm going to tie this back to my wrestling story. I'm walking into a guy who's
everything always ties back to wrestling.
Everything. Seemingly unbeatable. He hasn't lost a match in I think 2.5 years. No one can beat this guy. He walks around with a Superman shirt. He literally did. And like, everyone is saying he's the man.
He literally walked around wearing a Superman shirt. Yeah.
He's the man. And if I had listened to all these other people, if I hadn't emotionally and physically and mentally gone to me standing on the podium above him, and me and my hand being raised, and the feelings I was going to feel when he's standing there across from me, if I hadn't gone there, I do not think I would have won.
Yeah.
And I think the exact same thing with business. My big moments in business, and we hit a couple of them, but like my big moments in business, I had been there 3 years before. And so like, I'm envisioning things right now that I get emotional about it. Like, if you start talking about it and you were to hit one of those nuggets, I get super emotional, because I've already been there and I know what's coming. I get so excited about it. And so if you can mentally get yourself there, it's amazing how God lines things up and how those little moments add up. And it becomes what you dreamed of.
I love it, Will. Well, man, this has been an action-packed podcast, and I think that everything that we've talked about has just been inspirational. And when I think of you, Will, I think not only of somebody who has strong beliefs, but also a man of action, and that it's not something that just intellectually that you know, but you actually do the things that you should be doing. You've inspired so many people in your community globally. I actually have had people that have talked about D1 sports training and looking at the different things that you're doing with your gyms here at Southwestern, where we used D1 as a case study, and it's inspired other people for them to be able to achieve their goals. So just really appreciate everything that you do, man.
Thank you, man. I love it. Thank you. Guys inspire me. I love that Braveheart over your shoulder, by the way. Favorite movie.
Best movie all time.
All time.
All right. Well, we'll see all the listeners. If you want to check out Redefining Possible, You can go to redefiningpossible.com and get more information. You can hear more about Will. He's in the book, and we're excited to have you guys redefine possible. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Will. We'll see you later.
See ya.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. To stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst and Twitter at Catalyst_Action. Thanks for listening. This episode is sponsored by Southwestern Coaching. Southwestern Coaching has helped over 12,000 people increase their incomes by over 25% on average. As a successful salesperson, you know the importance of increasing your sales, but sometimes you might just need a little extra push and accountability to meet your goals and grow your business. Southwestern Coaching will help you increase your income through one-on-one sales and leadership coaching tailored specifically to your needs. Together, we will elevate sales. To schedule your free one-on-one business action planning session with a Southwestern coach, go to www.southwesternconsulting.com/action catalyst.